Our friend Guts is a total knucklehead. But he's a good, kindly, sort of, knucklehead. He just doesn't get it. He just hasn't figured out life. He just accepts life, and that's a good thing, to just accept what comes. But we are given self-determination, and we can go about doing something. He's not doing that. Okay, he's honed his skills, as we've discussed, as a swordsman. And he's the greatest swordsman in the world. Now what? What does a great swordsman do? Well, for the most part, he cuts down armies. Does that really want how he wants to spend the rest of his life, cutting down armies? Is there not more to life than that? And we also discussed that the one emotion that Guts has is anger. But he's starting to figure out that that's not enough for a life. It's enough to drive a person with singleness of purpose and total commitment. Absolutely. One could even argue that anger harnessed can accomplish things, but it doesn't accomplish things the way love can accomplish things. He hasn't figured out the whole thing about love yet, but it's coming to him. But he's not there yet. It took me 6 books to figure this out, and we're almost done with book 6. He's a total knucklehead. Does that make him unique in the world? No. Most of the guys I've met in the world, including myself, are total knuckleheads. It just goes with the territory. What I want to talk about is how Guts is the everyman today. Because if you just sat down at a park bench and waited for people to come by and ask them uncomfortable questions like, so what's your plan in life? You might be surprised to realize that most people would say, oh, I don't know. I'm going to go to work just like everybody else. That's not a life. Come on. There's got to be more to it. I had an old doctor that used to say to me, have a plan and work the plan. That was Dr. Ward. Have a plan and work the plan. Have a plan and work the plan. Guts has no plan. He just wakes up, and the closest he gets to a plan is probably, I wonder what I should have for breakfast. Maybe I'll sharpen my sword. Of course, we realize he doesn't even sharpen his sword. Mamma mia. So, what's this little talk about? It's about the importance of all of us having a plan. I don't care who you are. I'm an old guy now. I still have plans. And you should have a plan early in life too. And you might say, well, what if I come up with the wrong plan? I have an analogy, and it might help you. It helped me. I had this old Jeep. Well, it was a new Jeep at the time, back in 1983. It did not have power steering. And I put these giant wheels on it. And you couldn't turn the wheel. And so I'd find myself in a parking spot and I'd go, gosh, I got to go that way. And if I tried to crank on the wheel, it just didn't move. But I discovered something early on, that if you got that Jeep moving a little bit, those tires moving, then all of a sudden it was a lot easier to turn the Jeep. The momentum or the inertia helped overcome the tendency of these sticky tires to want to stick to the pavement and not move. And life is not unlike that. You can start off in the wrong direction, and it's okay. Because as long as you're moving, you can make course corrections. But if you just sit on your hands, planning on top of a hill of what you're going to do, what great things, if you're not moving, you're going to be like Guts, just fighting for your life all the time. Guts is starting to wake up, but there's a big question. How awake is he? Is he now so in tune with his life that he's not just going to rescue Casca, the love of his life, but is he thinking anything beyond that? I don't think he is yet. I don't even think he's got a plan to rescue her. He's just going to show up, and whoever comes up against him is going to get that big broadsword of his across the head. And that's okay when you're that powerful. But where's he going to run? Is life just going to tell him run left, run right, run straight? He just doesn't have a plan yet.
Even if he kills Griffith, what's he going to do after that?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people have small little goals, and that's a small goal. It's a very small goal. Have goals, will travel. And he has no goals other than those of the moment, and he needs some longer plans. So if there's a little bit of advice I could give, and I want to, is that like Guts, he had a lot of people in his life who were trying to teach him things. Let's go back to Sweet Jude. Jude tried to tell him how his life wasn't what it could be, pointing to Casca. And that was quite a bit of a sacrifice on the part of Jude, because we know Jude kind of loved Casca. Who doesn't love Casca? Everybody loves Casca.
Kawaii.
But did Guts get the message? No. He's like most guys, and probably like most women. You don't even know what you had until you lose it. Now, Guts has the fortune of having met an old knucklehead, the blacksmith, who kind of set him on a corrected path. And he is finally coming to realize, thank you, Mr. Blacksmith, for telling him his life may have been a whirlwind, but it's just spinning. He's not going anywhere. So...
Like, what did he do for 2 years?
Yeah, I mean, Casca's kind of crazy. I think I'll just take off and, I don't know. I'll just take off. 2 years later, he gets incentivized to go back by his son, who basically says, Mom's in trouble. And then a light goes on. And we're coming up to the culmination of this book, which is Guts and Casca reuniting, we hope. I don't know what's going to happen yet because I'm not there yet, but that's what I hope. But before we can even get there, what took him so long? What took me so long? What took you so long to figure this sort of thing out in your own life? Guts he's got a redeeming quality, which is a powerful one, which is singleness of purpose and total commitment. The problem is he has nothing worth totally committing to. And he's just never figured that out. It's not enough to be the greatest swordsman in the world. It's just not enough. There's more to life than that. And being an underling in another person's group, when you probably are the greatest swordsman in the world, is also, that's just not it. The thing he hasn't figured out is the thing that's most difficult for him to grasp, which is the whole concept of love. He hasn't figured out he loves Casca yet. He kind of knows it because he's going to rescue her. He's the knight without any armor. He doesn't need it. He's got a giant sword. But he hasn't figured that part out. He is, I guess you could say in a way, the incomplete man. He has all the masculine characteristics you could want in a guy, except he's like a typical guy. He has no empathy whatsoever. He just doesn't get it. I could tell you stories of my lack of empathy, but I don't want to bore you. Guts is headed for Casca right now because he did get shaken up by the blacksmith, and he realizes now there is one thing that is super important to him, and that is the salvation of, and I think he's finally figured it out, the girl he loves. It's so important to him, in fact, that he's even put that one whose name is unmentionable kind of on the back burner because he can't do both of them. At least he doesn't figure that would work into the plans. He's going to save Casca from what he thinks might be her doom. So that's a great thing to have singleness of purpose and total commitment to. And he's got it. Along the way, he's picked up a little kid, shyster boy, little shyster boy. And I like him a lot. He's been tagging along behind Guts and Puck, having to run and keep up. And Guts has been running like for a day and a half or something crazy like that. He sleeps during the day for the most part, so he's not haunted by the demons at night, but he's getting to the point of exhaustion. And yet, it's Guts. He's going to keep on going, and that's where he's headed. But he doesn't really have any idea of what he's headed to. He probably assumes it's dangerous. His whole life has been one danger after another, and he probably feels very confident that he can handle whatever is coming. But what little I know of what's actually coming, I know this, it's going to be dangerous, and I do mean really dangerous. He gets a visit from Skullboy, and it was a very interesting meeting because I really got the impression that they actually like each other. Now, Guts really should like him because he saved his bacon, and for that matter, Casca's. So I can understand it. But Skullboy also likes him, genuinely. They meet up again, and they're old pals. It's like, wow, I haven't seen you in a while. This is great. What are you doing? So, why is he there, though? I think he's there to help out. After all, he's got kind of a commitment to those two also. He saved their lives, probably risking his own. So there he is to help. And he gives a lot of advice and a lot of insight to Guts. And one of the things you walk away with is you realize that Guts really does live within two different worlds, as does Casca. It's because of their time in the abyss, or as you people like to call it, the eclipse, which is what the book calls it, the eclipse. I like abyss. When they were in the abyss, it changed them. They've got the brand, but it's not the brand that changed them. It's their time in the abyss and their escape from death. And yes, we can thank Skullboy for that, because he rescued them both. We had a long discussion about that the last time, or a couple of our visits ago, that Guts fought to the bitter end, but he was even pooped. And it may be why Casca is running around in a daze, because like Guts, she's like a part of two different worlds. But unlike Guts, she doesn't seem to be haunted by the demons the way Guts is. Guts can't get a good night's sleep. And in both their cases, I don't want to call him a demon child anymore, but their child, we're just going to call it, I call him the incubus, but the child, he's helping them both. Were it not for their son, Guts wouldn't even have gone back for Casca. I don't think he would have ever gone back were he not nudged that way, proving again that he's just not a young man with introspection. And you need that. You either need someone to come alongside you. Holy Spirit is always there if you need him. Or a good friend can be a good word. And someone that has the guts to say, you might want to consider this direction since you've been sitting for 6 months. And that's really the whole point of this little discussion, which is the son had to say, hey, what about mom? And totally Mr. Out of It, Guts probably thought to himself, how long has it been since I deserted Casca? I think it's been a couple of years. I think I'll go see her again. Well, at the same time, her son seemed to have kind of rescued her from that terrible situation she found herself caught up in. And she's caught up in it because she's so out of it. She's a zombie almost. I don't mean that in a Hollywood version of zombie. She's not biting anybody in the neck or anything like that, but she's just totally out of it. And I think it's because she lives in these two different worlds and can't discern which one she belongs in. Now, Guts, having fought his way out of the abyss, he knows where he belongs, but even still, he's a part of both worlds.
Guts was born into hell, practically.
Okay, so I'm editing right now, and I realized that I didn't really elaborate on what I meant. And what I meant was just that Guts was kind of born in death, he came out of a corpse. So he's kind of always been a part of both sides. So that's all I really meant, that he's kind of always been teetering on both sides of each world.
Yes, it is true. Guts's life has not been ideal. Born out of a corpse. That's a rough way to start life. There's lots of excuses that Guts could make for himself, but he doesn't make excuses. In fact, you got to really say that no one's got a good upbringing unless you're the daughter of a king.
You sure about that?
And have it made in the shade. No one has a good upbringing. But Guts was particularly harsh, and probably Casca's was too. But they are in the real world again, but Casca's got more than just a toe back in that other realm. She's living halfway in and halfway out. I don't even know if she's feeding herself or if she has to be fed. She's totally out of it. So she needs someone to rescue her, and it's gonna be Guts. But he's gonna have a battle on his hands because Easter Island man is there, and he's a no good Nick. And he's got people around him, although those knights that surround him, I don't know. It would probably take between 8 and 14 seconds for Guts to dispatch every one of them, worthless as they are. But the whole demonic horde is behind Easter Island Man, and the whole demonic horde is always after Guts, but he has an ally. And I think it's fair to say, considering quite a bit of reading that I did today, that Skullboy is definitely his ally and will probably help Guts if he feels Guts needs some help. Now, I'm still a bit of a ways from where the sheep gather, and the burnings at the stake are probably going to take place, and the fact that the prime target of that burning is probably going to be Casca, because they've already declared her a witch. Not good. Not good to have that happen. So anyway, we're approaching this conflagration, and I don't know how it's going to turn out, except to say that I know Guts will prevail. Will he see the White Hawk? I think he's going to make an appearance, at least according to Skullboy, he probably will make an appearance. And there's a whole bunch of details, but you know the details better than I do. Skullboy said basically that those persons of the God Hand really can't materialize in the real world, if you will, or in the world where Guts lives, unless there's a whole bunch of negative emotions, and it really has to be a tremendous amount before they can actually materialize. But, I mean, there's plagues going on, there's mass murders going on, rapes going on, theft, everything is negative. There's not a good thing going on. So, is this an opportunity for he whose name must not be mentioned to actually appear? I think so. Will Guts? I don't know. This is all speculation. I have no idea. And those of you who've read ahead, if I'm totally off base, just write my daughter and she'll tell me. But I want to say that my prediction is that Guts will be able to save Casca, but that a battle is coming between him and you know who. And in order to get her back, he's going to have to, at least for the time being, defeat him. You know who. I won't even mention his name. So I got to get back to reading because that's where I want to go. If you'd be so kind to like, maybe even subscribe, we appreciate it. Thank you.